Much like me. Family well-being coach. What? Oh no. No, please, because then I can't move it. I know. Hold on. Oh my god, why are you going like that? Where's the... Why is it not? Oh no, don't even. Why am I not doing this? Oh, no, because it's being a... Oh, wait. Oh, no way. I'm gonna just... Hold on. Wait. Identify with... Hold on. Twice exceptional. Children. Right. I'm just gonna have to saw. Oh, wait, okay. Both gifted. Disability. I'm not. I don't even know, but I in case, but I'm gonna put that here anyway, just in case. Wait, hold on. Call this, wait. Okay. Welcome to Raising Strong-Willed Kids Summit. My name's Andrea Milioti, and I am your host today. And our guest today is Susan Blumberg. And Susan is a parenting and family well-being coach, helping families struggling to develop healthy communication, structure, and lifestyle choices to achieve harmony in their lives. She is a co-author of several books on communication and marriage, one on parenting and child with sensory processing disorder. Her newest book, Twice Exceptional Challenge, Kids, pa- um, Parenting 2E Kids, will be released this year. So that's very exciting. And
Yes.
yes, it really is. Welcome, Susan. If anything else that you can share with us about you and how you fell into doing what you're doing, or a little bit about you?
Yes. Well, this is always what I've wanted to do since I was in high school, and I volunteered in the Learning Center in my high school. And I was in the field for 10 years after I got my PhD in child clinical psychology. And then I started having children in my 30s. I have two twice exceptional children myself, and they're now 21 and 25, but they both received supports and services. My daughter has 5 diagnoses: autism, nonverbal learning disability, Tourette's syndrome, panic disorder, and sensory processing disorder. My
Okay.
son has ADHD and anxiety disorder.
Okay.
My son is in college now, and my daughter is finishing pastry school. And
Awesome.
so I have lived the life of a parent of twice exceptional children for the last couple of decades, which has been an interesting experience. So I've sat on both sides of the table as a parent and as a professional, which has given me a new perspective.
Yes, I love that. I love that. We have something in common too. I have a boy and a girl also. My daughter is 24, she'll be 25 this year. My son will be 21, he's 20. He's got ADHD and ODD. And he also, and my daughter has extreme anxiety, and just recently we discovered ADD as well. So
No,
ADHD. Yeah,
yes, we
so
have a
yeah,
lot
we
in
I kind of,
common.
yeah, extreme anxiety. We went through extreme anxiety and depression.
Yeah.
So I do a lot like that. So I know. But again, my daughter in college was a 4.0. I mean,
Yes.
amazing, amazing. But that's like this twice accepted. You hear that a lot. My child's so gifted, but yet they struggle, and you hear that. How do we like identify that in our children that they are?
Well, I think the word struggle is a key word for our twice exceptional children.
Really?
So I want to just define the term first, because I actually was in a clubhouse room last night where someone said, "Oh, what is twice exceptional?" I hear it all the time. It means a child who's gifted in any domain. It could be in intelligence, in academics, or in the creative arts, music, art, singing, painting. It means an extreme gift in any area of their life, though mostly we think about it in terms of school. And they also have a disability. And that disability also could be in any of the 13 criteria that the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, that's the law here in the United States that identifies special education,
Mm-hmm.
any of the 13 categories. So that could mean, of course, learning disabilities, that could mean autism, that could mean ADHD, as we've already said, but that could also mean a physical disability, such as cerebral palsy or spina bifida, blindness, deafness, any disability plus
Down
any gift.
syndrome. Down syndrome.
Down syndrome. Any disability plus any gift equals
Mm-hmm.
twice exceptional. And so that's a very broad definition that many people don't understand, because traditionally people just thought about intellectual giftedness with a learning disability. But now it doesn't mean that at all. It means a much broader definition.
Really? That is just amazing. It makes me think of like my daughter, like, um, with the extreme anxiety and how and the ADHD, and I'm like, you know, I see all the hard struggles, but yet she is extremely talented in that drawing. She loves to draw. She gets that from my
Yeah.
father too. That's him. And my father was a very, very artistic, loves doing that, and very creative in writing. Loves to
Mhm.
write, even like to the point of poetry. And I looked at some of the things she wrote, things that happened to her. She has PTSD also, and she wrote where she elaborated more than what happened, but she made a poem, and it was absolutely beautiful.
Right. And so we do want to think about a bell curve. So lots of us have the idea of what a bell curve looks like. It has the high point in the middle, and then it comes off along the edges.
Mm-hmm.
So to be twice exceptional, most people are in that center section, which takes up 68% of the population. And
Right.
then on each side, there's a smaller section that takes up another 14%. And then there's the very small section that's the final 2% on each side. On the left-hand side of that curve, that final 2% are the kids who are in the lowest 2% in any area. That could be intellectually, but that could also be in terms of their creative gifts. But then on the top 2%, those are the kids who are the most gifted in an area. So there are kids who are high capability or high achievers.
Right.
They might be in the top 10%. Those kids have definitely more creativity, more gifts than the general population that are in the middle. But when we talk about gifted, we
Right.
talk about kids who are in the top 1 or 2%. It's really rare, right? It's
Really.
really rare. So it's not just kids who are good, maybe better than the general population at writing poetry or dancing or singing, but it's that top 1 or 2%. They're extremely, extremely rare. Think about the great published authors, the great published writers, people like Steven Spielberg, who has made some of the most amazing movies that we've ever seen, but yet he has dyslexia as well. So he's in that top 1% in his gifts, but he's also in the bottom 1% in terms of his disability.
Interesting. Really amazing. That is really so. It's like that smaller percentage of them that have that. Oh my God, that is just oh my. You know, you don't realize it. Like you said, people see it that one way when they hear that twice exceptional. They don't realize what it really is. You just think like it's that okay. You have here. This is that where you're creative and you're good at versus your disability where you're struggling,
Right.
and that's what people see that as. That's exactly what I saw. So now it makes me understand that difference. How do like we like as parents with them and maybe even like your teachers at school support this?
It's an enormous question because unfortunately, getting them identified, as I just said, is difficult. We have to get them evaluated and we have to
Right.
get them identified. Supporting them is just as hard because it's hard to understand these kids. These
Right.
kids are unique. We call them unicorns. That's how rare they are. And so, how do we support them is by doing what we can to support both their gifts at this end of the spectrum and their disabilities at this end of the spectrum. It
Mhm.
takes a lot of work. We as parents have to understand that our children are unusual, they are rare. And therefore, we have to give more of ourselves as parents to be able to support them. Because along with these rare gifts and these rare disabilities
Right.
comes emotional and social dysregulation. Our kids are more prone to social emotional upsets, to mental health issues. We've already talked about anxiety, you and I. Both
Mm-hmm.
of our daughters suffer from
Mm-hmm.
that. My
Yep.
son does as well. Many
Mm-hmm.
gifted kids deal with anxiety because of the issues they feel fitting into day-to-day society. They don't feel like other kids. They don't feel like they fit in to the school milieu. They don't feel like they even fit in with their own siblings because their brains are wired differently. They don't think like other kids. These are kids who, before they go to bed at night, are worrying, like Greta Thunberg, are worrying about the environment, are worrying about outer space. Their bedtime conversation are not like other children's. They want to talk about black holes, or they want to talk about the construction of spaceships. My son would read books about the Titanic or hurricanes or tornadoes from a very young age. That was where his interest was. We were not reading The Three Little Pigs before bedtime when he was 3 years old. We were reading books about tornadoes or the Titanic or spaceships. And that's why he's studying aerospace engineering right now and wants to build spaceships that go to Mars. That's what the Twice Exceptional Kid does. So adjusting our expectations is the answer to your question. What do we do as parents? We adjust our expectations of what we do with our children. These are not typical children. And so we have to expect new and different things from them emotionally, intellectually, creatively, and we have to support them at the level where they are. That might mean therapy. That might mean hiring a parenting coach like myself. And that means being actively engaged with their schools to get them evaluated, to get them the proper academic supports, both in the area of their disability, but also in the area of their giftedness. They need both.
So that would be like even like in the area of school with the IEPs, like
Yes.
I am getting an IEP and having it, maybe having an IEP under their disability and one for their giftedness, or just in that one
Well,
having.
no, you're making a very good point. Forgive me for interrupting.
No, it's fine.
An IEP in most states, not all of them, but in most states, an IEP is only for the disability side.
Right,
and that's the problem we have. We make an artificial distinction between how to help them on the gifted side and how to help them on the disability side.
Yeah.
And so we as parents have to be strong advocates and say, you're overlooking their gifted side. You have to support both. Unfortunately, only 27 states currently mandate and fund gifted education. And another, I believe it's 14 states, have some partial support, not necessarily funded, but partial support for gifted education. And that still leaves some states that do nothing at all for gifted education. And so we as parents in those states, even the ones that mandate and fund it, have to speak up for our children, because for example, in Colorado, they don't start the testing process until 3rd grade. But my kid needed support starting in kindergarten. She was already ahead of all the other kids. My daughter was identified at age 6 in kindergarten, and so was placed in a gifted and talented magnet school starting in 1st grade. So the reason we were able to get that is she was already on an IEP. At her triennial review at the end of kindergarten, the school psychologist identified her as profoundly gifted, and the school placed her. I didn't have to do anything. I was lucky because she was already identified with a disability since the age of 3.
Right.
Not all families have that. And so what schools that have states that have mandated gifted education do what's called an ALP, Advanced Learning Plan, or sometimes they call it a GIEP, a gifted IEP. And so you have to work with 2 themes, right?
Right, exactly.
And you have to work with your special education team. And often they don't mesh very well. Because the gifted team doesn't know about disabilities, your disability team doesn't know about giftedness. And then you have to work with teachers, for example, in your honors programs or your gifted education programs, who say, your kid has a disability, they don't belong in honors.
That's another method. I was going to actually bring that up as a question with teachers, because I think in just the areas of, I mean, just the areas of the disability with the ADHD or autism, or just the areas of that, I don't think teachers have enough training in that. So now I'm thinking with the giftedness, if they don't have enough training on that, how are they going to see the giftedness side? I mean, what do you
Okay,
think
so
about
you are bringing up some of the special issues that cause problems here. And so there are three issues that I want to address. The first is what we call masking. And so this is a different kind of masking than we see, for example, in autism, where autistic girls in particular kind of learn to cover up their symptoms to look more quote unquote typical.
that?
This is a kind of masking where if you're gifted enough, you could get average grades, even if you're capable of getting the top of the line grades. And that's because you have a disability that brings your grades down, but you're gifted, which would allow you to get the highest grades. And so you end up somewhere in the middle. You get average grades. And then the school says, well, he's getting C's or B's. He doesn't require either disability services or gifted services. It's like saying you got an F on this test and you get an A on this test, so we'll just average them and give you a C. And you don't get any services at all. And that happens to a huge number of our 2E students. 2E is the abbreviation for twice exceptional. But the reality is your student does need help for the disability and requires to be in gifted classes in the areas where they have the potential to excel. And the IDEA, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, requires that schools not look at grades to make a determination of whether or not a child is eligible for special education. They may not look at grades, but schools don't pay attention to the law.
That's a problem.
So parents need to be strong advocates and say, you must evaluate my child despite the fact that they might be passing their classes. You must evaluate anyway. That's the first step. The second step is that there are letters, they're called Dear Colleague letters, that have been issued by the Office of Special Education under the Department of Education, the Federal Department of Education, about twice exceptional students. And you can provide those letters to your school, and they specifically say that if a student is eligible for honors and advanced placement classes or programs or gifted and talented magnet schools, as my daughter was, you may not turn them away simply because they have a disability. And you must implement the full IEP or 504 plan because of that child's disability while they are enrolled in that honors program, advanced placement program, or gifted and talented magnet program. So if your child qualifies because of their IQ or other special skill, but has a disability, you may not turn them away. So it's the knowledge of the law that a family has to have. Now, families don't always have that knowledge. So you need to hire a special education advocate. I've worked as a special education advocate now for 35 years. A family can find a special education advocate. There are directories available. Two places you can look for an advocate are on the Rights Law website. It starts with a W. The guy's name is Pete, right?
Right. Like the Wright brothers, you know.
Yes.
Isn't it?
W-R-I-G-H-T.
Yes.
GHTSLAW
Right.
dot
Okay. Right.
com.
So yes. Yes.
There's a directory, and
I
on
took I took a course on advocacy, being a special education advocate, and I remember I have that learning in that. Yep. Go ahead.
yeah, the other one is COPA, the Council of Parent Attorneys and Advocates.
Okay. Yes, I
That's
heard.
our professional organization, and
Uh-huh.
it's COPAA.org. And
Okay.
we're also, you'll find me in both places, on both directories.
Oh,
Uh,
awesome.
but every state has some advocates, local advocates, and parent attorneys who can help parents who are fighting these issues with their school.
Really? I know the yeah, that's another big thing too. I always hear they have the attorneys that are just like strictly advocate, special education advocate attorneys.
Yes,
Like recently I was talking to someone, I didn't realize that they had that.
yes.
That people, yeah, that's really amazing. That's awesome. I like that. Awesome. This is really good. Okay, so okay. Now the special issues of the gifted and the disability. Like, okay, I don't want to say, because I know a lot of parents are probably still like, oh, this is all good, but then they get all like, how, how would they, I mean, like, because if you're in that 1% or that 2%, like a thing, but how would they, like, if somebody just says, well, you know, my child, oh my God, they just love to, they're very artistic and they love to paint and they're so good and talented. Is that a gifted, like, would that be a total gifted, or would this be that they're just good in that and that's where they, what I'm
Right.
trying to say? It's like
Absolutely.
how a lot of parents, I think, like, how do they really distinguish? Like, you know
It's
what
a
I'm saying?
really good question. It's a really good question. It's hard to know. You would have to work with a specialist.
Mhm.
You would have to have someone assess the quality of the work. Here
Right.
in Colorado, in most states, there are special schools for kids in the creative arts. Here in most states, there are special high schools for
Hmm.
kids in dance, in painting, in visual arts, in
Hmm.
creative writing. Those are usually audition only schools
Uh-huh.
where you have to present a portfolio or film yourself or do your art, present it, the
Right.
quality, and have it assessed to be able to see the quality of the art. That could be in poetry, writing a story. It
Hmm.
could be, as I said, you have to audition in dance or in singing or in musical instruments. Usually that child shows this ability from a very young age.
Hmm.
And so to a professional, find a professional teacher to assess the quality of your child's work and give you an honest opinion.
Awesome. That's really, oh my God, we can go on and on and on. There's so
That
many, we really can. This is just amazing, but it really puts a lot of insight on this. So this is also really good. Can you tell everybody, like, what would you like people to get from this today? What would you like?
I think there are three things, and one thing I still want to talk about. The first
Of
is
course.
we've already talked about how to identify if you have a twice exceptional kid.
Okay.
And I want to talk briefly about one more issue under that we haven't mentioned.
Of course.
And this is what we call overexcitabilities. There are many gifted kids who show some issues that don't rise to the level of disabilities, but make their lives very complicated. And so many gifted kids who are, no question, extremely gifted, way up in that 1%, who show anxiety. We've already talked about that, but it
Hmm.
doesn't rise to the level of a formal diagnosis, who are very sensitive in terms of their sensory issues, but it doesn't rise to the level of a formal diagnosis of sensory processing disorder, for example. And we call these the overexcitabilities. They may have issues with food. They may have issues with being clumsy. They're just awkward. They may have issues with some emotional sensitivities, right? But again, none of these are diagnosable in the level of a disability, but strictly because they have extreme giftedness. They are considered oversensitive. And there are 6 of these areas. 7, no, 6, I think. I suddenly forgot how many. And so I want to be really clear that simply having an extremely gifted child brings with it issues, just because extreme giftedness does help a child, not help, does make a child more sensitive to life in general, and does bring more issues into their daily life, but doesn't necessarily rise to the criteria of a diagnosable disability. And there are many supports for these children. I recommend looking on Facebook for the Hoagie's Gifted Discussion page. There's a Facebook group called Raising Poppies. There are lots of supports for gifted children, but that's not the same as being twice exceptional. There are also autistic children who have a single splinter skill, and we call those savants. If you watched America's Got Talent last year, the winner was an autistic boy who also has vision issues, who played the piano and sang in the most extraordinary way. But he doesn't raise to the level of what we call twice exceptional, because he has this single splinter skill. He can play the piano beautifully, but he's not otherwise able to cope in the world. And we call that a savant skill, S-A-V-A-N-T. Rain Man, which is the autism movie from the 70s that everyone knows.
Oh my God, yes.
Autistic savant. He has a single skill with numbers that he can manage, right?
It was amazing.
Yes, extraordinary movie. And many people think of that, but those are not twice exceptional people. Twice exceptional, no. Those are called autistic savants, S-A-V-A-N-T. Right, it's a different category. So I just wanted to raise that because many people get confused.
Exactly.
So twice exceptional is different. Being gifted through testing in this broad area and having an identifiable disability. And if you want to talk with me more about, your child, I'll give my contact information before we're finished speaking. But I also, and the last piece I want to talk about here, there are lots of supports for twice exceptional families as well. So that's the first piece. I want to really make a distinction between savants who have autism and a splinter skill, and gifted kids who have oversensitivities. Just being profoundly gifted does make it harder to cope in the world. There's no question. So that's not the same as being twice exceptional.
That's a good point, because a lot of people would think, yeah, there's the two. You can be extremely gifted and seem like you're twice exceptional because you have that, you get that appearance, like that you get those struggles, but not necessarily, you said that they're diagnosable.
Exactly.
They're just going along because of that extreme giftedness.
Exactly.
It's really interesting. Awesome. That's great. Well, great. I think you are offering the viewers a free gift that we have.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I am offering everyone who's listening a free Make a Difference call with me. And I call it a Make a Difference call because I want to make a difference in your life.
I love
And
it.
so anyone who wants to talk about their child with me, whether they're twice exceptional or struggling at either end of that spectrum, and would like some help in figuring out how to make a difference in their child's life, is welcome to contact me at Dr. Susan Coaching,
Mm-hmm.
appt.as.me. And Andrea, are you going to post that
Yeah, I'm gonna
in the
post all of
material?
that. I actually have that all going out within the emails, everything, so everybody's gonna get that. I have the whole list there on your
Great.
form.
And you
Yes,
can
so
have a
that's fine.
free 30-minute call with me to talk about how you can make a difference in your kid's life.
I love that. Make a difference call. Oh my God, definitely have to take advantage of that, everybody, because this way you can just get more insight and learn about Susan and what she does and how she helps. And that's awesome. You are really amazing, Susan. Thank you
I
so
Oh, thank
much.
you. I want to offer also 2 Facebook groups.
Okay, awesome.
One is called Parenting Your Twice Exceptional Child.
I
Twice
need to
exceptional,
have that.
sorry, children.
I
Right.
have that. Did you send that to me?
Yes.
You did. So good.
Parenting,
Okay, okay, great.
parenting twice exceptional children.
Parenting twice exceptional children.
Yep. It's one of the largest twice exceptional children Facebook groups online. You
Mm,
do have to answer 3 required questions,
mhm.
and I am the admin of that group. So I look forward to having all of you join that group. We have over 17,000 global members. Most of us are in the US and Canada, but we have people from all over the world in that group. I also run a small parenting group that's for any issue, not just twice exceptional. And that group is called Path to Parenting Harmony.
What is it? Past?
Path,
Oh,
P-A-T-H,
path. Path to parenting.
harmony.
Oh, harmony. I like that. Very nice.
And
Awesome.
so anyone listening is welcome to apply to join either group. You do have to answer some questions so I can be sure that you're on the right track, and I admin both those groups
Mhm.
and offer them. They're open to the public. And as I said, one is just for twice exceptional families, and
Right.
the Path to Parenting Harmony group is open to any parent who would like help with their families.
Awesome. That's great. Thank you. Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much. This has been wonderful. It's been a big learning experience and so much like insight about um Chewy kids that I literally I'm the same way. I didn't know how the difference, and it really puts a big, I know there really is. That's a great thing that you're doing, and parents need it. They need the support, and for both, the Dewey, for their giftedness and for their disability.
Exactly.
That's been great. Thank you so much. Thank you. Well, thanks
My
for sharing
pleasure.
everything with us. And I look forward to keeping in touch. And I also heard that you're on Clubhouse.
I am on Clubhouse.
I'll have to follow you.
I love it. And I run a twice exceptional room.
Oh,
Um,
really?
yep. On most Fridays, not this week, unfortunately, but most Fridays at noon Mountain Time and 2 p.m. Eastern, I
Okay.
run a room on parenting twice exceptional kids.
Awesome. See that yes, and just for the record, everybody, Clubhouse, if you don't have that, you can get the app, but you must have an iPhone at the
Yes.
moment. At the moment, we can't do anything, but I know they'll get there with the Android. But if you don't, try and get that. Try and get that iPhone or even an
Yes.
iPad, but you have to, it's all on Apple right now. But it really is a great platform.
And everyone is welcome to follow me on Instagram at
Mhm.
Dr. Susan Coaching.
Okay, Dr.
And you
Susan.
can message me on Instagram and ask any questions you have.
Awesome. This is great. Thank you so much. Thank
Thank
you,
you, Andrea.
Susan.
Thank
Thank
you
you
for
for everything.
inviting me.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.